The ANC Secretary General has announced that the party's branches have overwhelmingly agreed with its National Working Committee's decision to accept President Jacob Zuma's apology over Nkandla. Although Parliament is enjoined by the Constitution to exercise oversight over the President and his executive and to hold them to account, it has failed to demonstrate that there is any price to pay for failure to comply with the supreme law of the land. Legal analysts say the Constitution is the foundation, the cornerstone of our rule of law. All other laws are subject to this document. All legislation derives its legitimacy from compatibility with the Constitution. The Constitution confers the primary responsibility to uphold, defend and respect the Constitution and to unite the nation on the President. During an interview this week, we understand that the Minister of International Relations, in an attempt to paint the government and President Zuma's leadership in a good light, referred to disruptions in Parliament and violent protests across the country as irrelevant. Now back home, the deadly moth is destroying Nigeria's tomatoes. Nicknamed Tomato Ebola, Tuta Absoluta has laid waste to farms across northern Kaduna State, forcing local government to declare a state of emergency. As a result, prices of tomatoes have shot up by as much as 700%. Taiwo Banle walks around the market in Lagos shopping for groceries. A Nigerian staple, tomatoes are at the top of her list, but Taiwo is hesitant to buy some today. Nigeria is facing a severe tomato shortage. A moth known as Tuta Absoluta has invaded tomato farms, devastating harvests. A basket of tomatoes used to cost about 3,000 naira and now cost about 27,000 naira.
Buying one tomato for 100 naira, you might as well resort to eating food that does not require tomatoes, like okra, ilalasepo, ogbono, which we call akpon. You know, but it's outrageously expensive, and people are busy doing tomato festival in Spain, you know, swimming in tomatoes. Well, God will get us there. They should do something about the situation on ground.
Farmers have lost nearly 80% of their crop, but tomato Ebola is not the only problem facing the industry. Nigeria produces 1.5 million tons of tomatoes annually. Analysts say up to 45% of the harvest perish due to a lack of reliable transport networks, poor infrastructure and inefficiency. Most of Nigeria's fertile land also lie fallow.
We think more about production than we think about food security. And essentially what is starting to really show is that because farming is done at subsistence level, unaided by governments. The only aid government has so far given to farmers is fertilizers and all of that. Nobody talks about extension services. Nobody talks about storage and preservation. Nobody talks about access to markets. Nobody talks about yield per hectare.
For Mr. Okusaga, Nigeria needs to implement new policies to improve agriculture.
We should have a strategic tomato reserve. We should have strategic maize reserve, you know, and ensure that staples that are consumed across Nigerian households, there are reserves for them that can meet at least one whole year's demand should there be any crisis. Because if we had a reserve, this would have been time to open the reserve to make up for the short.
Nigeria is the 14th largest producer of tomatoes in the world and the largest producer in sub-Saharan Africa.